Okay, cool. Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Brian, for joining me, and we can have this little
Yeah,
chat here. Do you want to tell me just a little bit about like what Finlocker is and who you target and kind of what you're, seeing out there in
sure.
the market?
Yep. So you and I crossed on LinkedIn somewhere. You were having conversations. I have a lot of conversations, and it was quite apparent based on our interaction on those feeds that we're talking about the same thing with slightly different audiences, which is pretty cool. So Finlocker, we're a B2B2C white label technology company. We build personal financial management apps, if you will, but not like mint type budgeting apps. Our app is purpose built for home ownership, and specifically helping people that are early in their homeownership journey get to a place of financial readiness. So our partners, we work primarily with mortgage lenders, credit unions, and banks within those mortgage divisions, and they use our product to help educate and prepare their pipeline of prospective home buyers, right? So one of the ways to think about what we do is we're like this mashup of mint.com meets Credit Karma, meets Rocket Money, meets NerdWallet, meets Zillow. And then the special sauce, if you will, is that it's a white label version. So our clients now have this tool that they can use to reach, assist, engage, and nurture this early journey population of first-time home buyers.
Okay. Okay, cool. And like you had said, we kind of crossed paths because we were talking about the same thing, right? Like, it's not just about, I mean, I come from a marketing background, right? So I've worked alongside large home builders at real estate marketing agencies, really trying to figure out what is that like sweet spot to talk to consumers. So what is motivating them? Like, it's not just, can I afford this? Which I think is what is the big theme in the media. Do you know what I mean?
That's right.
So what else are people really thinking about when it comes to buying a home? And what are they thinking about 2 years before they can actually buy a home?
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's the the first thing I would say is this current cohort of first-time home buyers. I think the last stat I saw is the average age of a first-time home buyer, like year to date 2023, is almost 36 years old. That's like the oldest on record, for the median age of a first-time home buyer. And so as I kind of thought about that cohort, they're a little bit later in life than prior first-time home buyer cohorts. Presumably they've lived a little bit more life, so they have more experience, and I think maybe a little more educated broadly on finances. And so they're kind of coming at this with I think a lot more of an analytical approach than prior cohorts. And what's really fascinating is the older segment of Gen Zs and the very younger segment of millennials. So we'll call it the early tail of this current first-time home buyer is like really focused on educating themselves, finding, using all these new sources of information, right? Like for me, I still remember looking at encyclopedias when I, wrote papers back in high school. So,
I'm not commenting on that because it'll just say my age. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. So if you think about like this cohort that I'm describing, they've like leapfrogged beyond Google. They don't go to Google to learn. They're researching on TikTok and on YouTube and Instagram even. So it's fascinating where they're going for information, but forget where they're going. I'm just super excited that at scale they are going somewhere to learn. And so they're making more informed decisions, and they're more intentional on those decisions and starting the process much earlier, I think, than prior cohorts would have started.
And okay, have you like when you talk to your audience, like loan officers, and and real estate agents, what are they hearing? Like, are they seeing the same thing? Are they getting Gen Z coming to them going, hey, help me, I'm trying to figure out if I can buy a house in 2 years?
I think there's a little bit of that. I think the problem that those professionals have, if they're not facing the facts of what these people are doing, this cohort's doing,
Yeah.
is they're never going to get asked, because no one's going to know to go ask them. And that's a big thing right now. People are like loan officer. What young person knows what a loan officer is, right? And so if you don't know what a loan officer is, how would you know to even go engage them? And so what I talk a lot about with my, videos that I do on LinkedIn and just the talk tracks is, I'm telling the loan officers, first of all, I hate the term loan officer. Quit calling yourself a loan officer. It's very transactional. You're a wealth advisor that's advising on wealth beginning with your first home purchase, right? So you're more than a loan officer. You're really an advisor. And so what we're talking about is telling these loan officers, mortgage advisors, is they need to be going out on the mediums that this younger cohort is learning from and building their own audience and using education as their talk track, right? And don't talk about mortgages. Nobody cares about mortgages. You talk about the things that people care about that are going to lead to buying a home, and then the financing is just part of that experience. So,
and I think you saw when I interviewed my niece, who was 26, right? She just got married, so they're really looking. And she's like, but we didn't learn about this in school. We didn't learn, there's literally, she's like, I wish there was a course or something where I could go boom, boom, boom. This is what you need, rather than get to like a broker. And they go, oh, you're not ready yet. Right. Which is like a lose-lose for everybody.
I mean, to me, the typical real estate professional realtor, they're equipped to handle the people that raise their hand and say, I'm ready to go start looking for homes, right? Here's my criteria. And the reality of it is today, by the time somebody gets to the realtor, they've already done 50 searches on Zillow and Redfin and other sites. They know what they want. They know where they want it. They just need the realtor to, not to discount realtors, but in a lot of ways, the realtor is the one that's got the 5-digit code to the lockbox to go open up the house for the open house on Saturday. So
this is why I wanted to chat with you too, because again, from a marketing perspective, when you're putting messaging out into the world, it for consumers, say, like, I want home builders and developers, and when they to start to build the brand, so that not when a consumer goes to a realtor and says, I've already looked at all of this, because they do. Right? They're doing all these searches and they're trying to figure out lifestyle and location, and right? Like, what's happening in their life, what's happening culturally, like what's, and again, I talk about the media. So there's a lot of people right now in the media talking about the freeze in, right? So no one's selling, right? So no one's buying, the inventory, the lack of skilled like trade workers, like it's all very negative. But we know, because I'm talking to someone right after this, and we know lots of people who are buying houses still right now, right? So like, what's kind of that moment zero for a consumer where they go, I want to buy a house? Do you know what I mean? And so I think that's really important from like my perspective, from a marketing perspective, but also from like a loan officer and a mortgage brokers and realtors, like they have to be thinking about it in that way.
I think I agree. And I think the loan officers and the lenders that I spend a lot of time with, which are our clients, they're forward leaning on this concept. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be talking to them and they wouldn't be interested in my product. And so they're looking at their loan officers. And this is, I really do believe this. I believe that the local mortgage professional is uniquely positioned to be the expert on preparing first-time home buyers for that moment of readiness, right? Now the hard part, and you'll have all the answers because you're the marketer, but the hard part is, how do I get in front of as many of those people as possible 12, 24 months before they're ready to buy, right? And so I think if I'm talking to loan officers and saying, what do you need to do to be different in this market? And it's really, you need to be thought of 24 months before someone's ready to buy a home. So figure that part out.
Right. So be the educator.
Yes, that's
Like,
it.
be the educator, and be the educator without expecting a deal
Yeah,
in 3 months. I
it's
think
a
that's
long
the,
game. Yep.
and really understand who that person is and what's happening. So what I want to, and I don't know if you know directly like some of this, but I think it's important is like, you know, there's lots of things that happen culturally in our world, right? Like there's, you know, I always call it like team home ownership, like people that
Yeah.
still believe in the American dream and wealth building. And then most recently, I feel like there's this like team rent forever. And I feel like some of those people are saying, you know what, I'm going to blow my down the little down payment that I did have that I was really saving for on a big trip, on another investment, on a renovation to my current house because I'm not leaving. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And so I feel like there's there's things that are happening culturally
Yeah.
that people in our industry have to be able to speak to. And my thing is, how do you talk to those people and kind of pull out like what's motivating you to do that? Why do you feel so negative towards home ownership?
Yeah. I mean, I
You
think
know,
so. I don't know when we're going to publish this, but let's just assume it's sometime at the end of 2023, right? So
yeah,
we've been in this really interesting cycle, right? This extended cycle um, that's sort of once in a lifetime, hopefully.
right.
You get this, we've got the convergence of inventory and affordability.
Hmm.
Normally, we usually have one or the other.
Yeah,
And so I think, knock on wood, I think we're through the worst of that part. Um, And so I think, a lot of what you described in terms of this team rent forever is probably there's some pent up frustration. I can tell you my son and his girlfriend bought a home in the spring of this year and made 8 offers that, were all ridiculously overbids before they
okay,
finally won. And they were almost to the point where like, this is just not worth it. This is stupid,
right,
right? So I think
right.
there's a little bit of the what's the definition of insanity? Keep doing the same thing, expecting different results. So I
Hmm.
think that probably plays a little bit in this team renter approach. I think you'll see that swing a little bit back after the holidays, after the first of the year, where
Yeah,
rates have kind of started to migrate back down a bit, not all the way down, but we got the right signals now that some level of affordability will come back. I think you're going to see the locked in population of people. There's decisions that people make that have nothing to do with rates on buying and selling homes. That's the reality.
that's such a great point. That is like, I think that because that's what you hear all the time in the news. It's like, well, why else are people
Yeah,
buying homes? Like because they just got married, because they're sick of renting, because they maybe aren't even doing it for like, they understand equity building and like a long-term investment, but they want a safe, secure place that their
right.
kids can live in and grow up in. There's a
Yeah,
lot of different reasons. And I know security is an obvious,
yeah,
but um I did hear too from somebody, and I kind of nerd out a little bit. I like scour Reddit like threads because going to these like online forums and really understanding what people are saying in the wild, I think is really important for
yeah,
marketers, home builders, professionals like you and agents to understand who that buyer is,
yes,
right? And everyone is there's definitely that team home ownership versus team rent. But for people that are um, buying, right, or trying to buy, there's definitely still this sentiment around like hope it's coming, like
yeah,
I'm almost there. Or I just read today, there's this whole thread of got the keys, right? They finally got
yeah,
the keys, and all the comments are like, well, how did you afford that? Right? Some of it's a gift from a parent,
yeah,
family members. That's kind of a big thing now, right?
yes,
These gifts. Some of it's just like, I bought a house a few years ago, stayed in it, sold it, can buy a new one now. Like there's there's a lot of different ways to make it happen. And I think
yep,
it's important to kind of see what's happening in real time with consumers rather than only with only read the news.
Yeah, and exactly. And I would go a step further, and this would be directed to all of those professionals that are serving, consumers in this process.
Yeah,
We need to be positive.
totally.
There's way more, if this thing were, if you were to look at it on a chart, I'd say it's still 70% positive, but nobody wants, positives don't get the clicks, right? So it's up to us as individual, professionals in this space to tell the positive side of the story. Be realistic. You got to be real, but to me, there's still, there's stats that I see continuously that homeowners have 40% more wealth than renters at scale. That's a pretty positive metric, right?
Yeah.
So I encourage those that are paying attention to us, that are in our space, to lead with positivity. Don't lead with the clickbait negative headlines, because it's just not helping.
Right. So one thing I always like to ask too is, do you hear from folks, do they still believe in the American dream, right? Like of homeownership, and like most people are still really wanting to attain that.
Yeah,
Are you
I think
hearing
so.
that?
Yeah, I think it's still very, I think about, I'm a Gen Xer. I don't know where I fall in that, but somewhere in the middle, I hope. I have two of my three kids that are now homeowners. So they understood and understand the value of owning versus renting, right? Because we talked about it a lot while they were growing up. I do think that the older Gen Zs I'm seeing a lot more of them, because I'm starting to pay attention to where they're kind of communicating. And
Yeah.
there is a lot of people that are in that cohort that are, talking about, that first time home purchase and why it's important. And what's cool is people are not just focused on like the dream home. It's the first home. Let's get the first home, because it may take 3 to get your dream home, but you got, start with that first one. Maybe you're there for 2 years, build some equity, you don't have to buy your first home. Does not have to be the dream home. I think that's the one thing I would kind of echo out there.
That's a really good point, because I know now this is a broad stroke, so like we'd need to interview more people,
Yeah.
but younger folks, even us older folks, like everything's about instant gratification and maybe a little bit of like entitlement, and like I work really hard, I need this, but I like that level setting. Like it's a stepping stone approach,
Yeah,
right? It's still an investment.
that's right.
Yes, you're living in the home, but it's still an investment, and you need to take it step by step and have like a strategic approach. We just need people like you, and right, that can and loan officers and real estate agents that can like educate,
That's right.
first time home buyers on that process.
Yeah, I'm generally excited about this cohort of this next generation home buyer. But I'm equally, or maybe even more, excited about the next generation real estate professional, mortgage professional that's going to serve that cohort.
Yeah.
Because I do believe that in order to be successful in those spaces, they're going to be forced to take a different approach, and leading with education is really the first step of that.
Yeah. And leading with it on TikTok.
Yeah. Got to be where they are, right? You got to go where the audience is.
Yeah. Or Instagram, but yeah, TikTok. That makes me, I had a home builder say, "Oh, should I start making videos on?" I was like, "Should I start making videos?" And I said, "Yes, on TikTok." And he said, "Wait, start making videos or start making videos on TikTok?" And I said, "Probably both."
Yeah. I haven't quite, I haven't gotten over there, because I'm not, my target audience, most of them they're like in the LinkedIn space. So
yeah,
that's my comfort zone for now.
right. That's the safe space currently.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully we can do this again. Right? On another relevant topic.
Yeah.
Maybe in the beginning of the year or in spring.
Let's do that. Let's definitely do that. That'll be awesome.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you.